I guess for most guys, it's like a rite of passage to be able to work a grill and how to cook a steak. But I'll be dead honest with you. Growing up in my Filipino household, now I don't know if you're a Filipino household or if you are Filipino or not, it just wasn't a big thing in my house. We didn't eat steak. What's up with it, family? It's your big homie Jeff, back at you with the realness, of course, as only I can bring it, because y'all deserve the real. So I decided I'm going to serve it to you. I've got a special treat for y'all tonight. I made some steak. Listen, let me tell y'all. I got myself a cast iron skillet for the first time like 3 weeks ago, and I have been going crazy making everything on it because I'm determined to get like the seasoning to adhere to that pan to make it awesome. But anyways, I got a steak. It was like a 1 pound T-bone steak. I don't know steaks or what kind of steak to get because I'm not a big steak dude. I don't really know much about steaks. I don't have a grill, whatever. I got some spinach, garlic spinach roasted. I also got some roasted sweet potatoes that I made and the steak itself. So without further ado, let's get cracking on this food because your boy is starving and yeah, it's going down. Let me get a little bite of this. Now, just to let you know, my cast iron skillet, I was going for medium rare. And yeah, so here's to y'all. Okay. Well, I think it might be medium. That's all right. I don't have a grill, and I'll be honest with you, this is only my second time in real life I've actually cooked a full steak. I don't know how to explain it. I was never a grill dude. I've never learned how to cook on the grill. I'll crush it on the stovetop though, I'll be honest about that. But yeah. Oh yeah, I was hoping for medium rare. I ended up getting it roughly medium, but that's alright. That's a good steak. Yeah. I guess for most guys, it's like a rite of passage to be able to work a grill and how to cook a steak. But I'll be dead honest with you. Growing up in my Filipino household, now I don't know if you're a Filipino household or if you are Filipino or not, or whatever. Culturally, it just wasn't a big thing in my house. We didn't eat steak. We had pancit, adobo, lumpia, dinuguan, mongo. Those are all like typical Filipino dishes. But either way, I made the steak. Pretty bomb. It's like a 1 pound steak. I think I seasoned it with salt, pepper. I had this like 21 seasoning salute that I got from Sprouts. Or not 21, maybe it's 21 season salute. I don't know, some salt-free thing was full of herbs and stuff. I rubbed that on there. I let the pan get real hot. Put some olive oil in the pan. Seared both sides. A couple minutes on each side. And oh, this is delicious. I need to do this more often. Once I seared both sides, I added like a big chunk of butter, garlic, rosemary, thyme, and just kind of scooped it on like I was basting a turkey. I did that for like another 5 or 6 minutes. And voila, here's my steak. Let me tell you folks, it has been an interesting last couple of days for me. In my little small, quiet, sleepy town of La Mesa, California. Now, for those of you who might not know about me, your boy is from the hood. I grew up a little further away from here, basically in the hood. I moved out here because it's a nice little quiet white suburb. Yeah, so I guess a couple of days ago, the police body slammed some kid at a trolley station. Of course, the kid's black. Welcome to America. And obviously the current political climate, that didn't go over too well. Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. they've got these protests sparking off nationwide. If you didn't know, or if you've been living in a cave, essentially what happened was there was a gentleman by the name of George Floyd who lived in Minnesota that was essentially killed by some cops live on camera. What does one say? Welcome to America. It's been going on since before I was born. You know, when I was a kid, it was the Rodney King thing. Then you had Trayvon Martin. You know, and any number of high-profile public cases involving police brutality. But anyways, so my sleepy little town, which is essentially a very, very quiet suburb, had some protests yesterday. Oh, these protests got out of hand. I actually went to the protests. I support it. I'm politically active. I don't really get too much into my political beliefs. When push comes to shove, I love everybody, and I don't agree with answering violence with violence. Most of the community involvement I go in is, you know, like in the past, it was anti-gang violence rallies and anti-domestic abuse rallies. You know, I went to support. You know, because this is a interesting time to live in America. You know, we've been dealing with this COVID-19 thing, higher jobless rates than we've had historically in a very long time here. Not this incident where they body slammed that kid. Well, those protests slowly spiraled out of control. I kind of left the protest right as it was starting to flare up. Which, if you've ever been to a protest, especially a nonviolent protest, you can feel it in the air when the vibration is starting to change. If you really tune your antennas real sharp. So they had like the armored police truck Batarang thing there in the crowd, and you know, people are chanting, and they even blocked off the freeway on-ramp right around the corner from my house, like not even a half a mile. The major protests were like a half a mile from my house. So it was cracking. You could hear police sirens all day long. Helicopters were flying overhead, multiple helicopters, and this was the whole day yesterday. I come to find out during the night, they burned down the Chase Bank, they burned down the Union Bank, they destroyed several businesses, they looted the Vons, looted the Walmart. I mean, it was popping off. It's a tough thing to discuss. Unfortunately, as an American, I think that's just a part of our cultural heritage, unfortunately. I think it's, you know, anywhere you go around the world, I think we're kind of famous for our racism here in America and the way we treat African Americans, black people, brown people, Arabic people. But especially African Americans who have been here since the founding of this country and have been systematically treated like lesser people for the last 400 years. I think at a certain point, people get tired of it. But yeah, so my interesting little suburb here in San Diego essentially turned into socioeconomic war zone. You know, thankfully none of my friends got hurt. I didn't get hurt. I'm here making this video, but it's hard on the soul. When you really sit back and think about it, why the powers that be don't want to be a force for cause on a national level to address this issue, which it's hard. It's hard. I believe this, that if you're a brown or black male that grew up in the inner city like I did, even females, I don't believe you will encounter any one of us that has never been victimized by racial profiling by the police. That's millions and millions of Americans. We just haven't. That's just our existence in the inner city. Whether or not you believe it or not, I don't care. It's fact. So you have a segment of the American population that is scared to death of the police, and it's hard when you're the minority and you have to open up your heart and constantly forgive and show love, because historically that's shown to be ineffective. Listen, amoral leadership historically will never cede its power or make monumental sweeping change through nonviolent protest. That's just what it is. So I think historically, since the days of Martin Luther King and other such political leaders, clearly nonviolence is not working. The powers that be in this country, they just don't want to admit that there's a problem. It's a problem. 2/3 of our prison system in this country are filled with black and brown. Our country is not comprised of 2/3 black and brown. It's actually more like 2/3 Caucasian. Now, to incarcerate 2/3 black and brown in our country's prison system would be to denote, or to honestly be racist and say that black and brown is more inclined to commit crime. They're not. They're policed differently. As a person of color who grew up in the inner city, we're just policed differently. My white friends from the suburbs can't even begin to mentally comprehend what it's like. Where I grew up, which is no factor under my control, but it was a big gang neighborhood, and the gang where I grew up at, the kids were recruited by the Mexican mafia. So the Mexican mafia would take these kids down to Mexico, and they had Muslim extremists fly in from the Middle East to teach these kids how to move in a coordinated military trained fashion. So not only are we dealing with an organized crime element, but you have the Muslim paramilitant element, and you end up growing up in a neighborhood that not only has the federal RICO Act imposed on it, it also has the Patriot Act, and it classified the gang as a threat to national security because of its ties to Islamic militants. This is the neighborhood I grew up in. We didn't have constitutional rights growing up in my neighborhood. If you were more than 2 or 3 deep walking, the police had every right to stop you, search you, and harass you with no punitive damage to them at all, just because we're brown and we live in this neighborhood. So, just to let you know, I don't think, Becky and Hillary and Chad experience that when they're in, Beverly Hills or Calabasas or Del Mar or La Jolla. They don't experience that. Now, mind you, it's a whole country full of people getting treated like that. And on top of that, we have a president that kind of alienates that entire half of our American society through very colorful use of language. And essentially, it's a powder keg, and the great American social experiment is kind of failing at the moment. 105,000 cases, 105,000 people have died from the coronavirus. 40 million people are unemployed. We are still seeing videos constantly of black men getting brutalized by the police in our country. It's madness. I don't know the answer. I'm just trying to show love to everybody, man. Like, I don't know why we cannot just all love each other. Why is love so difficult for everyone? I don't know. I can't fix what your mom broke, or your dad broke, or your ex-lover broke, or the person that stole your lunch money when you were in elementary school broke inside you to make people hate. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't have my own inherent prejudices, because I do. But I also have a brain. And I can override my environmentally conditioned prejudices to see the bigger picture. You know what I mean? If I could not get past my environmentally conditioned view of the world, I would have never gotten out the hood. I would have never gone to college. It's as simple as that. But I never thought I'd see the day that my neighborhood was burning down. Not this quiet little neighborhood. I moved out here because it is a quiet suburb. I grew up in the hood. I've lived in the hood my whole life, except for just the last few years when I went to college, because the college was right up the street, the junior college I went to. And I like the suburbs. It's cool. It's quiet. I don't, have gang members hit me up on what neighborhood I'm from, like I did growing up. Even though, growing up when they hit me, I'd knock them out anyways, because that's just how I am. I'm trifling. But, I don't see dope fiends everywhere. The police aren't racially profiling, not to the degree that they do in the inner city, especially out here, because I'm not really walking around too often with a tank top. I don't have a shaved head anymore. I drive a Prius, so I'm not classification material for the police. But yeah, my neighborhood was burning up yesterday, and you were hearing police sirens and helicopters. And there's a lot of people hurting right now. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of fear. And I think it would be insincere and fake of anyone in this current political climate to do something like a Mukbang episode or really anything and not address it. Like, our society's tearing apart at the seams. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to be here to bond with y'all over some food. Maybe you can put a comment in the comment section for what you think is a good method to go about this path of reconciliation for both sides on this ideological fence. Like, heck if I know. I just don't want to be the next person brutalized by some crazy aggressive cop with a badge and a gun. That's nuts, man. Alright. All that's left is the bone. Woo! I finished it, y'all. That's so rare for me to finish like a whole meal, but I'm pretty happy. Anyways, sorry for my rambling, y'all. I don't mean to get too political with y'all, but look me up on the gram. You know the deal. If you like what you watched, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Please leave a comment or a suggestion. Excuse me. In the box below. One love, everybody. It's your homie, Big Homie Jeff, aka Yellow Boy Magic. Catch me on the next round, y'all.